What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It is time for Upset Alert Week 14, and I have to admit that last week was not a very good week for the upset picks. In my defense, half the games that I put on the Upset Alert video didn't even happen. We didn't even see those games. Indiana, Maryland, Colorado, USC, Oklahoma, West Virginia. Those games didn't even happen. We didn't see them, so obviously didn't get those right. And out of the 8 games, there were no upsets. But I did miss some. I missed some games that actually turned out to be upsets. I missed Oregon State, Oregon. And that was one I really just didn't see coming. I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but I did not really even consider that game. I thought that Oregon would take care of business. Should have known. Rivalry game on the road, even though there's no home field advantage. Oregon State's a good team. They're not the Oregon State of old. They have proven that they can compete with teams in the Pac-12. You know, they used to be the laughingstock of the Pac-12, but they are much better. Missed that game. Michigan State, Northwestern. So that one was not on the video, but it absolutely would have been if I had taken off those games that got postponed or canceled, because it was like my number 9 game. I was very close to putting that on there. I could see potential there for Michigan State to win that game. 2 teams there, and you know, it's going to be a low-scoring game, defensive game. Those types of games can easily be upsets. And then we saw Rutgers and Purdue. That was also an upset. Didn't really think about that one, I don't guess. But those are the 3 big upsets, I guess, from last week. And a couple of them were huge. You know, Oregon State beating Oregon and Michigan State beating Northwestern. Those were huge upsets. Changed the landscape of the season. It's something that we had been lacking. We just had not seen those big upsets for quite some time. Finally saw them last week. Now this week, will we see more of the same? Will we see potential huge upsets that could shake up the college football playoff race, shake up the conference races? It could happen, and usually when we get late in the season, it starts to happen. The pressure starts to build for some of these teams, and we just see the upsets happen. So will it happen this week? We're going to find out. And if you're new to this series, what we're doing here is we're picking 8 games that I think are most likely to be upsets. Not saying they're all going to be upsets, but the 8 games that are most likely to be upsets, games where we should put a team on upset alert. They should be ready. Should watch out for a potential upset. And these games, there must be a spread of 4 points or more. Spread cannot be a field goal or less, because in that situation, really, it's not an upset. So that's what we're going with. And let's get to our first game. Rutgers did it last week. Could they do it again this week? They'll play Penn State. This is not the same Rutgers team as last year. Just like with Oregon State, that program has kind of started to turn the corner. Rutgers apparently has done that this year as well. Penn State, I think, got some confidence with that win over Michigan. I like the Nittany Lions to win this game, but it would not surprise me to see Rutgers pull off the upset again. They're playing much better than they did last year, and I think there's potential there for an upset. Although, again, I would take Penn State here because I think this team will probably finish the season pretty strong. Let's go to the next game, Texas and Kansas State. This is a really interesting game here. A lot of things point towards an upset in this game. It's at noon Eastern time on Fox. Texas favored by 7 on the road. Kansas State, if you've watched them this year, any of their home games, they've got a pretty good home field advantage despite the limited capacity. So there will be a home field advantage for them. It's also a team that's 4-5, a team that, you know, really has nothing to lose here. I mean, they just need a win really bad, kind of to make their season. I know they beat Oklahoma early in the year, but it's really not been going well for them. A win like this could really help to finish their season the way they want to. And for Texas, they're not really playing for anything either, unless maybe there's some kind of crazy scenario that could put them in the Big 12 championship game. But they've already got guys opting out for the rest of the season after that loss last week. You have to wonder, where will the motivation be for Texas? Do they even want to play anymore? I just think we could potentially see an upset here. Kansas State's a team that I think could really, you know, they've got a lot more to gain. A win here for them would be huge. For Texas, you know, a win or loss, it really doesn't matter. Their season's over, and it's really been another disappointment for the Longhorns. So I think this is definitely a game where there are some ingredients for a potential upset, although Texas clearly is still the better team. How about this game in the Big Ten? Ohio State and Michigan State. The game is on ABC. Ohio State favored by 21 points. They are big favorites. But we've already seen Michigan State get a couple of big wins. Remember, they beat Michigan, and then, of course, last week upsetting Northwestern. It's a team that has been up and down, but the defense has been pretty solid for them. Ohio State's a team that hasn't been able to get into any kind of a rhythm because they keep getting games postponed. We don't even know for sure if this game will happen. Ohio State is clearly the better team. They clearly have more talent, but you have to wonder here, can Michigan State's defense make some plays? Can they force some turnovers like they've been able to do? They're going to be aggressive, especially in the secondary. Could they maybe force Justin Fields into a couple of mistakes like he had against Indiana? I really wonder about Michigan State's offense. I don't think they're going to be able to score a whole lot, even though Ohio State's secondary has struggled. But this is a long shot. It's probably not going to happen, but just with all the weirdness of this season and the fact that Ohio State has already had 2 weeks where they've had to postpone or cancel games where there's been that disruption, and there's all the playoff talk about do they deserve to get in. You know, there's just a lot of distractions, and potentially we could see an upset here. Probably not, but you never know. This game, I think, is much more likely to be an upset. I'm not saying it will be, but it's more likely than Ohio State. This one, I think, is more in the range of that Texas-Kansas State game, a game that could be an upset. But it's at noon Eastern time on ESPN. A&M favored by 6 points over Auburn. Texas A&M is another team that had to do a long layoff, which for Ohio State, they've been disrupted twice. It's just been for 1 week. But Texas A&M, it's like 3 weeks. Finally came back last week, and the offense didn't look good at all. I mean, they really were sloppy on that side of the ball. Defense was really strong, and because of that, they should be able to win this game. But it's on the road against an Auburn team coming off an Iron Bowl loss, and a team that could really save their season with this win. It's not a great year, but if you could finish off 7-3 and get a big win over a top 10 team, really get some momentum going into the next year. This is a big game for Auburn. Obviously, it's an even bigger game for Texas A&M because they're trying to make the college football playoff. But this one just has that look that where it could be an upset. Bo Nix plays much better at home. You look at Auburn's losses this year, all on the road. So, yeah, maybe this could be an upset. We'll see what happens in this one. I think it's going to be a great game, though. Liberty, Coastal Carolina. No spread listed here, but I believe Coastal Carolina was like an 11-point favorite, which is very surprising. Liberty is a very good football team. They've got a win over Virginia Tech. Coastal Carolina is a very solid football team as well. To me, this is more of a toss-up type game, one that could go either way. I like Coastal Carolina because they're playing at home, and I think this game will see a lot of points. It'll be a shootout. Maybe the team that has the ball last could win this game. So to me, it's going to be a one-score game, and so that means Liberty has a chance to maybe pull off an upset. West Virginia at Iowa State. This game's at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Iowa State's only favored by 7 against a pretty good West Virginia team. We've seen West Virginia competitive in most of their games this year. Good football team, and I think they'll have a chance to pull off this upset. Playing on the road will make it tough. Iowa State now a top 10 team, a team that's looking towards the Big 12 championship and maybe even a way to sneak into the college football playoff. Will that pressure get to them? A lot of distractions, I think, for the Cyclones. We could potentially see an upset here in this one. And then we have Oregon State at Utah in the Pac-12 on ESPN. It'll be at 10:30 Eastern time. Utah favored by 9.5. Surprising to me to see Utah favored in this game, especially by 9.5. Even though they're 0-2, they've barely been able to play. And Oregon State's coming off a huge win over Oregon. We could absolutely see an upset here. I think Oregon State, just because they've played more games and they're in a much better rhythm, maybe we see the Beavers pull off their second straight upset, and we stay in the Pac-12 for our final game, Washington State at USC, 7:30 Eastern time on Sunday. This game will actually be on Sunday on FS1. USC is favored by 14. They didn't get to play last week after they finally put together a pretty good performance in their last game. Washington State has looked a little bit better than I thought they would. To me, this is going to be a close game. USC should be favored, but I don't think they win it by 14. I think it's closer than that. Maybe we see an upset even if Washington State can make some plays in this one. USC has not looked great at times this year, so this will be a good one, I think, in the Pac-12, and again, a potential upset. So those are my picks for the week. A couple of games I looked at: Indiana, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's favored by about 2 touchdowns. That game could be closer. Indiana has a solid defense. I know Penix is out, but they can run the football, and we'll see what the new quarterback looks like for them. And then also Florida Tennessee is one that kind of got my attention. I didn't put it on here. I don't think it's going to happen. But you look at Florida and how they've started kind of slow the last couple of games. Well, this game's on the road against a Tennessee team that could really use a win. And we've seen Tennessee pull off some upsets in the past. Florida could overlook them. I don't know. Maybe that's one we could see on the road. Florida, could they lose to Tennessee? Not on the video here because, again, it's not even It's not one of my top 8 picks, but it's possible. It's possible. Don't be shocked if it happens. So those are my picks for the week. I'd love to know who you think is going to get upset this week. Which picks do you like or not like from my 8 games? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.